The time is at hand.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
One of the many spirits said to haunt the area.
Unknown animal attack.
We need a great reset.
Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen.
Welcome to In Dark Places. My name is Junebug. How you doing? We got a great show for you this week. My buddy Kyle is back, and we're going to be talking about the Davide Grusch whistleblower story that's been all over the news here lately. Mr. Haunted is on assignment again this week, and he's okay. Just, he needs some time. He's going through some things right now, so he'll be back. I always try to get these episodes out every Wednesday, but it don't always work. I'm 119 episodes in, and I think like maybe 60 of those have been on a Wednesday now, so I don't know. I used to have all these excuses. I was busy with work and crazy times and just stuff like that, but now I pretty much put the episodes out whenever. Still try for Wednesday. It don't always work. But I have an excuse this week why the episode is late. It is because I have a new guardian angel encounter. About a year ago, the housing authority here in town had a little auction. They auctioned off some of their computer equipment and an old piano and a truck that they used like for maintenance and repair. A little work truck. It was a GMC Sonoma, a 2003 model, and it had 30,000 miles on it. So it was like a brand new truck. I loved it, and I bid on the auction and I won the truck. I think I might have told the story before, I don't know. It's been a year ago. I was excited about it. It was a little red truck. It was a pretty little truck. It was beat up from being a work vehicle. And after the transmission went out my Jeep, I've been driving the red truck to work all the time. Little Sonoma. And it's been a good truck for me. Good on gas mileage, stuff like that. And when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, me and Brandon took the red truck to Tennessee. We went to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, and we had a good time. When I got the truck from the auction, I was so excited about it. I didn't really pay much attention to the body of the truck. I just saw the 30,000 miles. I was like, heck yeah. But little did I know, the truck had been sitting there out in the weather for probably 10 years. And it was pretty rusted up underneath it. And it was mine by that point, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. I was just kind of stuck with it. And I was on my way to work on June 20th, 2023, and I heard this weird popping, grinding noise on my way to work. That don't sound good. I'll get it checked when I get home and stuff like that. Didn't think much of it. So on the way home that night, I was halfway home, and then the grinding, popping noise returned and was 10 times louder. So I pulled off on the side of the road and looked at it, and the axle looked kind of weird. It was like shifted forward, and like all the housing and everything up in it was kind of non-existent and broke and very rusted. I ended up just having to park it on the side of the road. Going to get a tow truck to bring it home one day. So I'm now down to one vehicle. My trusty Mustang. It's a 2004 model, so it's pretty old too. Wish me luck. But that's not why you called. I had a guardian angel story. So yeah, whenever we went to Tennessee, we took that red truck, and I'm guessing we had some angels with us in the truck. Because that thing is so rusted, you can break pieces of the frame off with your fingers. And there is really no other explanation of how that made it to Tennessee and back. On the interstate, going 70 miles an hour and stuff like that. There's just no way. Other than angels. So if you're listening, angels, thanks. But we're talking UFOs this week. Our friend Matt over in the UK sees UFOs and stuff all the time, just like I do. His most recent sighting was on June 15th. He captured it on video too. So I will include that into the YouTube version of the show. So be sure to go check that out. And I'm actually caught up on YouTube now. I can't believe it. I've been like 20 episodes behind for like 2 years. And I'm finally all caught up on that. But anyway. Yeah, check this out. Matt saw a green light flashing high in the sky. No other lights of any color and no noise. And then it just kind of pops off out of existence. It's a cool video. Then about 40 minutes after that, he was strangely drawn to go outside and look up. And he saw a bright white light. He said it was moving kind of slowly across the sky, and then it just blinked out as well. But I get that all the time. It's crazy. I'll just be in the house minding my own business and like, oh, wait a minute, gotta go outside, check out this UFO, be right back. And just come back in the house. Crazy how that works. So, yeah, thanks Matt. Awesome story. I wrote back to Matt and was asking him a few questions and stuff like that, so he sent me this little voice message. So we'll just let Matt tell the story in his own words here.
Hello Junebug, it's Matthew here. Yeah, it was a bit of a strange moment because the camera didn't pick up obviously as good as I saw with my eyes. The green was kind of like a bottle green, you know, those I can't think of what bottles are green. Whiskey bottles sometimes are green. But it's just the sheer fact that it's a single light green flashing, but not fast. It was flashing like a pulsating. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it was just hanging there. There's no other lights around it. No red light, no white light. There was no noise. What on earth is a green light doing in the sky? And obviously I was lucky to catch it, because if I'd have popped out a few minutes later, I'd lost it. So I find that happens a lot. I'm in the right place at the right time, and yeah, I really do need to invest in some better video or photo equipment, because smartphones are really not that good. But yeah, I saw something strange. Somebody I sent it to thinks it could be an orb, which I didn't think about, and that's a possibility. It could be an energy orb. I've had an orange orb go straight across over the top of my flat before. That was amazing. Didn't catch that one, unfortunately. So I saw that, and then I went inside and chilled for about 40-50 minutes. And then I had, as you said in your message, you get a kind of a pull to go outside, or it's an internal message from something or someone, and you just go outside, and you're in the right place at the right time. So I go outside, and I know I'm there for a reason. I look up, and there's a bright light in the sky, and it's moving very slow. It's moving slowly, and I look up, and I jokingly said, "Hi, how you doing? Are we ever going to meet?" And then it sort of blinkers out. And I know they're up there. I know they're watching and stuff, and they can hear us. They can read our minds and all that sort of stuff. But nothing's scared me just yet. Nothing's, I've not had an encounter. But yeah, they're always doing that sort of thing. I love it. I really enjoy it, and I just sort of throw out my not manifestations, intentions. I say, look, come on, You can come and say hello. Don't be scared. You don't know who they are really, because there's supposedly so many different. But what it would be nice is if it was humanoid looking. You know, the Nordic. Oh my God! If it was those, that'd be fantastic, because that wouldn't scare you so much. Anything else, I would probably do a runner. But I'm glad you liked the video, and love your show, by the way. Both of you guys do a brilliant show, and keep up the good work, and I'll catch up with you later. Cheers.
Thanks, Matt. And those are all great stories. We're working on trying to get Matt on the show to tell all his stories, and it's going to be awesome if we can get our schedules lined up. And it's not a bad idea to kind of talk to the UFOs mentally or whatever. Chris Bledsoe does that, and we got to get him on the show too. I've talked about him before, but he can kind of make the UFOs appear at will and stuff. If he tells them to come and say hi or whatever, they always show up. That's pretty neat. And if you've got a scary story you'd like to tell and be on the show, you can be just like Matt and record a message on your phone and send it in to indarkplacespod@hotmail.com. Our UK news correspondent, Paul Chadwick, has been very busy finding some cool news stories for us. Like this one. Mexican Volcano, a Wormhole for Aliens, by Chas Nuki Burden. Thanks, Chas. Aliens can get to Earth through a wormhole in a highly active Mexican volcano, a Mexican journalist has insisted. Jaime Mason, love that guy, said 2 UFOs casually flew into the Popocatépetl volcano in Mexico as its crater spewed lava high into the air. He said the volcano is serving as a gateway between 2 locations in space, allowing space travelers to enter one place from another, reported the Daily Star. Thanks, Daily Star. He said that no object of human origin could enter a crater as the temperatures are as high as 1,000 degrees Celsius. And thanks, Paul, for sending that in. Cool story. It's weird how those UFOs in Mexico kind of hang around volcanoes like that. I've pointed that out before in our little documentary that I did on the Appalachian UFO Research Society page of this big, long, cylindrical object that my buddy Kyle photographed back in 2012. And there's very similar objects to that going around volcanoes in Mexico. So it's weird. Makes you wonder. Seems like we got a little UK theme going on this week, talking about Paul and Matt. And sometimes it just blows my mind that people from other countries listen to some hillbilly in West Virginia. Paul is one of the OG listeners of the Haunted Chronicles. He's been listening for years. And Matt is an OG listener of In Dark Places. He's been listening since, I think, the 2nd episode premiered. So thanks, guys. We appreciate your support and your friendship. And now here is the Nicolas Cage Meltdown of the Week.
I created an army of robotic appliances, and they created an array of giant electromagnetic nodes. Nodes capable of pulling down all the space junk orbiting the planet and driving every human underground. So, what do you think?
In June 2023, United States Air Force officer and former intelligence official Davide Grusch claimed, based on classified information he says was provided to him by colleagues, that the U.S. federal government maintains a secretive UFO retrieval program and is in possession of non-human spacecraft and dead pilots. In 2022, Grusch filed a complaint with the U.S. Office of Intelligence Community Inspector General so that he could share classified information with the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Grusch also filed a complaint alleging retaliation by his superiors over a similar complaint that he made in 2021. In June 2023, members of the U.S. House of Representatives announced plans for the House Oversight Committee to investigate the matter. And here to talk about it is my buddy Kyle Lovern. Kyle, what do you think about this Davide Grusch guy?
You know, that's very interesting. I watched the full interview on News Nation with the commentator, interviewer, investigative journalist Ross Coulthart. He's an Australia journalist. I'd never heard of him, but he was pretty good, and I thought he did a good job with the interview. I TiVo'd it also and watched it again yesterday. Just wanted to try to refresh myself because I knew we were going to be doing this show, and got my wife to watch it because she missed the first one when it was live, and it just blew me away. This Grusch guy coming out as a whistleblower, but you know, as they said, and then Fox News also said, his credentials proved to be true. I mean, he was an Air Force officer. He did work for the Pentagon. He's got a background in physics, and he worked under the UAP task force, and he had a really high intel classification. And so I think he's one of those guys that just thought that the public needed to know. You know, a lot of people were thinking, what? But you know, like they asked him on there, "What are you getting out of this?" He said, "Nothing. I'm not trying to profit from it, or get any a show or anything." He said, "I just thought that the public needed to know." And he said, "I tried to find out more about it," because he said even he was at first he was like, sort of thinking, "Is this true?" When they were talking about the UFO crash retrieval program, and the more came out, and the people he worked with, and he was finding out more and more. And I guess he saw some documents and pictures, and that just blew him away. And I guess eventually, though, he got discouraged and resigned from that position, and now all this has come out. But if it's true, which I got a tendency to think it is, it's one of the biggest news stories in a long time, even though I know a lot of the mainstream media doesn't cover it, but there has been a couple. News Nation and Fox both covered it pretty well. So the word's getting out there, and it's gotten the attention of Congress, which it really is good because they're going to have hearings on it. James Comer, who's a congressman from Kentucky, our neighboring state, and he's said, "Yeah, we're going to look into this and have some hearings and try to find out more about it." And he sort of gave it over to Tim Burchett, a congressman from Tennessee, who's had an interest in this subject for a long time. I think he's going to sort of be over that House Oversight Committee. So that'll be interesting when they have those. I'd like to watch those and see what comes out of those congressional hearings.
Yeah, he's got the credentials and everything. I was kind of iffy on it at first when the news first came out, and he checks out on all his background and everything, so he's a real credible source.
Yeah, his credentials are good and checks out, like you said.
Yeah, he seems to be the real deal. I thought it was too good to be true there at first.
I know, and then but if you watch the hour-long special they had on News Nation, and then I watched afterwards they had a question and answer session with the interviewer Ross Coulthart and people like Leslie Kane, who's wrote about UFOs before, and they talked to both of them, and both of them said that they had other people talk to them and tell them similar stories and information that Grusch did, but they were afraid to come forward. And they're hoping now that Grusch showed the courage to come forward and come out with this information, that the other people will come forward, and that'll give it even more credibility, because if you get more than one or two people that come forward, that'll be really interesting to see what happens. You've had people like that, Louis Elizondo, that had his own show on TV there, and he evidently worked at the UAP task force, and he's come forward with a little bit and investigated some things, and it was I think he's the one that really brought out those recent Navy pilot videos in the last 2 or 3 years that you've seen on there with the tic-tac shaped UFO and some of the other videos that the pilots got.
I think it'd really make him sweat if he'd get 2 or 3 of his colleagues come out and back his story up, and the government would just freak out on that and be shaking in their boots. They wouldn't know what to do there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would give it some validity, and hopefully that'll happen. Then you've got more than one credible source, and maybe they're going to have to finally admit it and come forward. You know, I wrote several years ago, probably 10 years ago or more, I think you and I talked about it, that I thought we were close to disclosure, and it's a little bit later than I thought, but it seems like that you know, we're slowly but surely things are happening. I mean, you know, the Pentagon had to come out and say those videos by the pilots were real, and that they did have all that money, secret money. I guess some people call it black money, because they have to, I guess, hide it because they didn't want people to know it was going to a task force to study UFOs, and then they changed the terminology to unidentified aerial phenomena, and they had to admit that program was real and that they had been studying it all these years, because, you know, they wouldn't admit it, that they said nothing had been done in years, ever since Project Blue Book. They've just sort of been covering it up, but it's been one of the biggest cover-ups ever, and I think hopefully the truth's coming out. As they say, the truth is out there.
It just blows my mind that all of us slowly coming out like this, because I just assumed it was just always going to be covered up. It's been all hushed for all these years, and you know, they're letting it slip out. I'm
getting up there, you know, I've done some investigations you have, and we've done some joint stuff. I've wrote my books, and I didn't think it ever happened in my lifetime, but it looks like maybe we'll see the truth. They'll have to admit. It'd be interesting. I know a lot of people say, well, why didn't he come out with some proof? Well, you know, you can't just walk out of a government building like that, or the Pentagon, or wherever his office was, with documents and pictures. You can get in big trouble. But if somebody could get a hold of some of the pictures or video or whatever they have showing those UFOs that supposedly they have gotten at crash sites, and then of course the cohort asked him about, well, do we have, you know, alien bodies? And he said, well, it's only natural. I thought the way he answered it, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, he says if you go to a crash site and retrieve that spacecraft, or he called it a non-human vehicle, I think, that there would be pilots in those spacecraft, and or if you recover them, or they just landed it, they had, you know, there would be people in there. And then they, you know, he touched on, and what I've thought about this has been interesting for years, and I know you and I've talked about it, that doesn't mean they're necessarily from other planets, but they get into the other dimensional realm, that these things could come from right more close by, but for another dimension, or from another dimension, which is, you know, I'm not a physics person. It's way out of my genius and brain, but that just blows you away when you think about that.
Yeah, there was a bunch of people that are thinking it's all a big hoax and stuff, but he seemed pretty legit, and I don't know, they said maybe he's a disinformation agent or something like that, but I think
yeah, people said that too, but, you know, that's what they've said before, you know, and I just don't think so. I think he better watch his back. You know, he's going to be careful, unless they're finally, maybe this is part of the disclosure. They're let, you know, one guy come out like Elizondo, and then now he's come out, maybe somebody else, and, you know, slowly, they're still throwing it all out at us at one time. They're just slowly letting a little bit come out at a time, and letting people know what the truth is. And it, you know, he went back to, I thought was interesting, like we always think, I think of UFOs starting there in the 40s with the Roswell crash and the Kenneth Arnold sighting, when the first term came up, flying saucer. But he said that the first retrieval was in Italy in 1933, under Mussolini's dictatorship over there, and that they had retrieved a crashed UFO. And I guess after the World War II, that the United States, got a hold of that, and from that point, we've gotten others, including Roswell, and the others that we probably have no clue that even happened, or if we did, that we just thought maybe were rumors.
Yeah,
But that makes it go back 90 years is my whole point, and a little farther than we thought.
All of our technology and everything boomed around that time, so it makes sense that's how it all came about.
Well, yeah, that's what people have talked about before. I've got that one book by Corso that talks about the day after Roswell. It's entitled "How We Back Engineered from That UFO Crash," and you've heard about the metal that's sort of aluminum to crumble up and it'll come right back into shape, and some of the other technology on there, and a lot of our, like you said, greatest inventions came after that. We took leaps and bounds into some things that we weren't even close to before, like fiber optics and metal alloys and things like that.
Davide Grusch saw all those photographs of the crashed UFOs and everything, and he could tell a lot just from the photographs. So there's a chance that those were planted and maybe some kind of misinformation given to him. If he is a disinformation guy or something, he don't know about it. He's been misinformed or something. But he was sincere in what he saw. He believed it. So that's basically what he's doing. He's telling what he knows.
I think he's definitely sincere. And like you said, if it turns out that it's not true what he was saying, I don't think it's because he's trying to hoax anybody or come forward with a big lie to get his face out there. I think, like you said, somebody gave him some wrong information, but I don't think that's the case. I really believe that there's something to it, and I'd like to hope more and more will come out. And I think if Congress keeps putting pressure on certain agencies and they have these congressional hearings, that'll help a lot. And they made that comment on there. I think I've watched a few shows after that, or where they've talked about it, that even they said, well, why don't the president come out and say anything? They said the president usually doesn't even know anything, because they said they're considered, and you think about it, it's true, temporary employees, because they're only going to be in for 4 or 8 years, and that they aren't even privy to a lot of this information. That's why Bill Clinton was asked about it, Barack Obama's been asked about it, they all have been going back, but they don't come out, and if they do know anything, they don't say anything, probably because they're told not to because of national security, or they don't really know because they aren't privy to that information. But like they talked about on one of the shows I saw follow-up, the Russia and China, our two main adversaries, have been doing the same thing. They've got their own crash retrieval programs, and they probably tried to, if they've gotten crashed, which I've heard of one in Russia in particular that happened years ago, they would do the same thing, have their scientists look at it and try to back engineer it and use it maybe against us, and instead of, sharing it with the world.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But, this could be the biggest government cover-up ever. I mean, this is technically, if it all comes out that it's true, it will be the biggest story in history, and that we've known and believed it, you and I have, and others like us, even though some people laugh and snicker about it, not as much so much now as they did in the past years, but the truth will finally come out, and people will see these guys weren't so dumb after all. They knew what they were talking about.
It's like I was saying last week. I talked about how it's like the biggest news of the century, like you said, and like people just don't even seem to care. They're just worried about how they can offend people and everything.
Oh yeah, but you're getting into the Department of Defense, and they call it now the All Domain and Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. They keep coming up with all these different names. The UAP Task Force, and I know I was watching one of the news shows the other day, and how they have the president's press secretary come out and do a press conference every week, and that came up, a question to her, and she just said, smiled and said, you'll need to ask the Department of Defense about that. I don't have any information. It's just like she was dodging it, And she probably doesn't have any information. And if the president doesn't know, then I'm sure that his press secretary and others around him wouldn't know the truth about it either.
They get their need-to-know basis, and they consider these guys not needing to know.
Exactly. So it's amazing. But this David Grusch is. I hope to see more interviews and follow-ups with him. And I thought the News Nation story was, or the interview was really good and professionally done. And you'll see more stories, I think, in some national publications. I know Ross Coulthard and Leslie Kane, some big names, write for some pretty big papers like the New York Times and the Washington Post and things. So hopefully they'll keep looking into it. And I think they have themselves, like I say, interviewed other people that have said similar things, but they never would come forward. So maybe this will edge those people a little closer. I liked Grusch. It started out, he just said, look, I'm from a blue-collar family in Pittsburgh. I didn't have money for college, and he used the Air Force to get his college education. He was obviously intelligent, you could tell the way he talked. And, he spent all that time in the Air Force and then got this job as in the Intel and that division of the UAP task force. And, he had spent time in Afghanistan and other places. He seemed very legit. So I think it's only going to, more and more will come out, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. And then, he's a real hot topic right now, so he'll probably doing tons more interviews and stuff. So maybe over time he'll let some more out.
Yeah, and if he does have any information, maybe he'll slowly. But I'd say if he does, he's afraid to. He could get in big trouble if he released that to the press, any documents or pictures or anything that he was able to get out of there or copy. He would probably have to get special permission. But if this disclosure is going to happen here in the next few months, then maybe we'll see that. You mentioned the debrief. That story was written by Leslie Kane. I've got her book about UFOs that she wrote a few years ago. Pretty good writer, and she's been interested in this subject for a long time, like a lot of us.
Yeah, they were saying, I think it might have been on Tucker Carlson, he was talking about it, how people had never heard of the debrief.org until the story came out. And
I hadn't either. I'd never heard of it.
That was the same.
So that really pushed them up to the forefront. And even News Nation is pretty new as far as a network news television channel, and I think this really catapulted them ahead of a lot of people. And, some of the others, the NBC, CBS, some of those, ABC, they don't even cover it. CNN, they just ignore it. But and then Fox has done pretty good about covering it somewhat. And but it seems like News Nation is real interested in it. I think they're going to, and they've continued. Like I said, I've turned on every night certain commentators they have with their own show, and they've continued to cover it and follow up with it, and do some reactions and talk to some government officials and other people. And of course, we may talk about this in a little bit later, but they had that incident out in Las Vegas where the family claims they saw UFOs crash and aliens in their backyard. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, that's a cool story too. I've been enjoying reading about that.
Yeah, me too. And I thought that sounded sort of like a hoax, but I don't know. The more I hear about it, and you see that the police came out there, and supposedly maybe even some other government men in black type people, and they put up cameras, and they did catch that. It looked like some kind of fireball on right over top of going through Las Vegas on a police body cam, and a couple of ring bell cameras caused noise and sounded like a whooshing noise and maybe a crash. So and just listen to the 911 call. It's sort of chilling. You think it sounded like a little hoax, but the police came out and did investigate. And like I said, one of the policemen that came out there, he said, well, one of my fellow officers said he saw something shoot through the sky, so we thought we'd come out here and check out what you guys were saying. They couldn't find anything, but, that doesn't mean that something didn't happen.
Like where he was kind of nervous there toward the end, he said, if the aliens come back, don't call me.
Yeah.
We don't want to know about it.
Well, that's true. And then they were talking about to Coulthard about it, and he was asking Grusch if the aliens basically are friendly. Has anybody ever died or been hurt with encounters? And he sort of indicated that had happened, whether they were pilots were shot down or something had happened. And I know that sort of scares people because we always thought they were all friendly, sort of like E.T., that kind of thing in the movies. But, maybe there's different species, and maybe not all of them are friendly or, here just to, as I've thought before, that we're sort of like a species to them, and they're coming down and checking us out and been following us and investigating us and doing scientific studies on Earth for years, and it would be a little scary if we found out that they were benevolent toward us. That would be a little scary.
There was someone on Art Bell's show, I can't even remember who said it now, but one time he was talking about the aliens and stuff. Why haven't they tried to reach out to us? And the guest said that we could be like a little anthill to them for all they care, and they could just step on us anytime they wanted to. So I always thought that was kind of scary.
Yeah, I know what somebody said one time, compared it to like also the Native American Indians here. When the Europeans came over, they said, well, it didn't work out too well for that. The Indians did it because we ended up taking all their land and killing a lot of them off. And
yeah, it could be the same way.
Similar to that, yeah, and it made sense if you put it in that kind of analogy. But, getting back to Grusch, I'm looking at a quote here. He said, well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots, and, believe it or not, as fantastical as it sounds, it's true, Grusch said. So it sounds like, there's been stories where we had alien bodies retrieved in the past, like at Roswell and other places. And so, it's pretty wild.
They got the whole chain of command and stuff too, so maybe the people that he got his information from were not the ones that actually saw any kind of aliens or anything. They just saw the wreckage and they told him all his information and stuff like that. So
yeah, well, he said he was certain that the materials that the crafts are made from are not from our planet. He used NHI, I think, non-human intelligence, and that the materials they found were not from our Earth, and so if that's again something they've hinted at and talked about for years, and maybe it's the truth's coming out. This guy's pretty brave for coming forward if he's legit, and I think he is. He also said, it's totally nuts that humanity as a whole, especially U.S. citizenry as a whole, they're not even benefiting from the broad research on this solve the propulsion energy issues, the materials science that could improve people's quality. It can improve people's quality of life, which we've said that for years. It looks like their technology, it could be something that we could help us with our electrical grids and power sources, and we've always been required fossil fuels, oil, coal, natural gas. Now they're trying, nuclear, but apparently they have technology that's far above that, and it could really help us. But maybe they don't want that to come out because that would cost a lot of people billions of dollars if all of a sudden we didn't need their gasoline or whatever, their oil any longer.
Yeah, that's true. It's the way it usually goes with the crude oil and everything.
If they had back engineered it, they've had to find, uses for some of that, and some of that metallic, rubbery material that they found supposedly at Roswell, the I-beams and stuff. I've been watching, I know you too, the Skinwalker thing out in Utah on TV, and I think they dramatize it somewhat for television, and naturally they're going to do that. But they've done some experiments there, and they've seen UAPs, and Travis Taylor, who was also worked for that UAP task force, I think, and got in for the government, is on that show and is about one of the guys doing the experiments out there in Utah, which is, was originally owned by that Robert Bigelow, who was apparently very interested in UFOs, and he sold it to this new guy, Brandon Fugal, and they drilled into that one place out there on the Skinwalker Ranch, and when they come out, supposedly there was some metal flakes that they got on the drill and Travis Taylor said it was the same kind of material that they use as the shield on the space shuttles to protect them from the heat and stuff when on re-entry and from the sun. And why would that be? That's pretty wild if you think about it.
Yeah, it's a great show. I love that.
Yeah, and now they've got the follow-up show. They're going out in some other areas, other places that are similar. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but
no, I've not even got a chance to see that, so I'd check it out.
Been on a couple of times, yeah. Check it out, and it's pretty interesting. But I think, that's where you get into things like maybe portals or certain areas on Earth that there's portals, which has been rumored that's what's going on there at Skinwalker Ranch and other places. And we talk about how UFOs just seem to just vanish. We think, a lot of people thought it was just because they were so fast to take off, but a lot of times it's almost like a door opens and they go into another dimension, and that could be where they are coming from. It's an other dimensional thing. And again, it's so far above my mind, but I can understand what they're trying to say, I guess it just blows you away. You're trying to think about it. I just can't comprehend it.
Davide Grusch talked about that too, how they don't exactly think that it could be aliens from another world. It could just be extra dimensional stuff coming through here.
Exactly. That's why I was trying to tie the two together there. I think there's a connection there. And so it's like all this is finally coming out. But, they haven't been too many that have come forward to say this whistleblower, Davide Grusch, is, lying or, debunking him or whatever. He made it up. If you notice, it's not been they've not said a whole lot about him other than, well, he did work for us, and, he was in the Air Force. I think he got up to be a captain. And, they may be treading lightly on this situation.
I saw that there was this body language expert on YouTube checking him out, trying to look for little hints that he might be making it up, and he couldn't really see anything wrong with it. He said it just kind of seemed like a nervous type of thing being on TV, but he couldn't really see that he was making anything up.
Yeah, he seemed very legitimate, and it doesn't seem like he was making it up. He was just candid and tried to make the answers, and he also seemed secretive about some stuff, because like he said, he's like, I can't tell you that much because of my former job or the clearance I had, and there's certain things I can't say, which is legit. Again, if you work for a government organization like that, you're sworn to secrecy, so you're going to be still have to tread lightly. Even though you've come out and said some things, you probably can't say some things that might be deemed to hurt national security.
A lot of people kind of picked on that, said that he wasn't at liberty to talk about it and stuff like that, and it was top secret and everything. So people picked on that as being like a little weak spot. Like, well, he should tell that too, but yeah, that's right though. He can't.
He might know what he's doing. He probably knows he can't go too far, or he might not be around much longer. He's got to be careful. It's definitely the biggest UFO story that's come along in a long time, maybe ever. We've heard about different situations and talked to people who have been abducted and other good sightings of supposed landed areas, and it's pretty good. He seems, like you said, like he saying this, his credibility seems pretty good, and his credentials are backed up. News Nation and all them did a background check, and it all checked out. Everything he said was true. It wasn't like, when Bob Lazar came out a few years ago and said he worked at Area 51 and he was in on the back engineering of the UFOs, crashed UFOs. They could never find any background where he had went to certain schools or had worked there and stuff like that. It's almost like they erased him off the face of the earth that he ever existed, but not with Grusch. I guess if they want to make you look like a liar, they could.
Yeah, they found some holes in Bob Lazar's stories, but they can't really find anything in David Grusch's.
Exactly.
We've had some activity around here, locally here in the last few months I've not had a chance to talk about. You want to talk about the thing over at Whitesburg?
Yeah, I saw, a couple of people tagged me with it, and it's been, about 2 weeks ago, because I think I immediately sent it to you also, but a guy got a picture of a UFO in Pike County, Kentucky, around Whitesburg, and it was a pretty good picture. It looked like it was daytime sighting. It looked sort of silver, gray, metallic. There was people getting on there joking, so it's just a blimp, but for one thing, I don't think the Goodyear blimp's going to be over Whitesburg, Kentucky, and or whatever other kind of blimp that's coming over for advertising. It did not look like a blimp. When you zoom in on it, it definitely looked. It was a UFO, unidentified flying object, or a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. It doesn't mean all the time that it is a flying saucer, so to speak. It could be something the government has, but it was definitely interesting, and it was a pretty good picture. Try to contact the guy that posted it, but he did not answer back.
I kind of get the impression that this guy in Whitesburg didn't see the object with his naked eye. He just saw in the picture. He was taking a picture of something, and he just saw it later on. He put the picture on his computer, and then he saw it, and he was like, oh, what's this? So I kind of think that's why he didn't try to reach out and get back to you whenever you emailed him.
I was hoping he would, and I was going to try to get him to maybe talk to you and be on the podcast.
Our friend Steve said that he saw something in the sky that same day, I think it was, or maybe like the day after. He was out doing some yard work, and he saw a weird white thing in the sky that didn't look like a plane. It was just kind of sitting still, and then he got one of his buddies to come and look at it, and then they watched it go behind the mountain. So you never know, it might have been the same thing that this guy in Whitesburg saw. It's not too far away.
There's been a few sightings in our region over the last probably 90 days or so, but that was a really good one. It was close to us, probably 50 miles away.
Yeah, not far at all.
Just keep looking up, folks. I had a guy that had sightings in his past. I wrote about in my first book, and like he said, not everybody's always looking up, and it's true. You think about it, you're driving, you're looking ahead, you're walking, you're looking ahead. Don't always look up, but I know you're like me. I'm always sort of eyeing the sky, especially if I'm out at night walking the dog and it's clear. I'm always looking for something. I get excited if I just see a meteor or a shooting star, or the Skylink. The Skylink satellite came over this area about a month ago, and for a couple nights, and people got pictures of that. People were like, "What is this?" And I got on there and told them that was just the Skylink satellite, because it's a straight line of a bunch of lights. But if people don't know what it is, they're going to think, "Oh, it's a UFO."
I'm still mad that I can't get to see that. I've been looking for 2 years.
So it's supposed to come over one night, but it seems like every time I know that it is around here, it's either foggy or cloudy. Just like when the meteor showers that you have at certain times of the year. So many times around here, it's not good conditions weather-wise to view those. But been lucky enough to see some. But it's that's what I told somebody. I was on a radio Metro News talk show a few years ago when I had my first book come out. And it's like I told them, probably 80-90% of the sightings can be explained a lot of times. But what about that few percent that can't be? That's where they've got to realize, hey, there's something to this. And that's what I think with those new videos from the pilots that are coming out now. There's sometimes they can explain those, but then there's those that they couldn't explain. You could tell by the reaction of the audio of the pilots. They're like blown away, like, whoa, did you see that? Look how fast it... And, it's not humanly possible for us to go that fast because of the G-force. You would just, you couldn't do it. The human body can't take, we're going so fast. And those things to shoot, down just in a second, being up 10,000 feet all the way to where they're just right over the ocean. That was one of the videos. I think that was taken out there where the USS Nimitz was at, off of the coast of California. And you had some others that was taken off of near close to us, I think off of the coast of Virginia, the Atlantic side, and then down in Florida was another UAP video that came out that was filmed by fighter pilots. And now some of those pilots they were a couple of them on the follow-up talk show after the Davide Grusch interview. Had a couple of the pilots these people are smart. To become a fighter pilot, you've got to be really smart, know your stuff, and to be able to operate, an F-16 or whatever. And to hear them come out and talk, because a lot of them are retired now, so they're coming out. Of course, when they're still in the military, they're not going to say anything. They're afraid to, but now they're starting to come out and talk too. So you're getting more and more very credible witnesses that are coming forward that are talking, and that makes me pretty happy to see those people come forward.
Yeah, these pilots, they got a lot of knowledge of what should be in the sky and what shouldn't be, and they're going to know when something is not a plane. They can tell these things, especially when it's going 10 times faster than what they're going. So, yeah, it's not right.
And it's not just, two guys fishing, as I said before, drinking a six-pack down a country road or something, like the stereotype was in the past. But these people, you've got a lot of people come forward that are very smart, very intelligent, that's been working, in the military or with the government or whatever, have come forward and they've talked about their sightings, and that it's definitely something that they've never seen before.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time for people like us. We're getting stories left and right like this. This is great.
Yep, and I think, like I say, I'm going to try to keep up and find out when these congressional hearings take place. I'm hoping maybe they'll be on C-SPAN or something like that, and maybe try to watch some of them. But I'm glad that a couple of the congressmen in our neighboring states here in the Appalachian region are at the forefront of that. There's others that are interested in it too that have come forward, and like I said in the past, even some others that have run for president that have been interested in the topic, and some that are curious. They said, if these things are coming over our military bases, we need to know what they are, and that's true. Even if they're not, say, aliens, if they're from our earthly adversaries, we need to know that. So either way, they need to be investigated.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that lawsuit. That'll be something to see.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to continue to keep our ears and eyes open as more of this information comes out on some of the shows and some of the stories, like you said, like the debrief and some of the national. A lot of these are just internet-based publications, which way a lot of newspapers are becoming and new magazines. But a lot of information is coming out that way. So just keep surfing the web and keeping your eyes open. Watch certain news channels, and you'll see about it. And hey, you hear anything, let me know, and vice versa. I'll let you know, and we'll keep in contact. And as soon as the latest comes out, I'll let you know.
Yes, sir.
As they say, the X-Files, the truth is out there.
There you go. Yeah. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll do it again sometime soon.
I always enjoy it, and stay in touch, and let's hope that more information keeps coming out.
Thanks, as always, to Kyle Lovern for hanging out. We'll do it again sometime soon. And thanks to Micah Hanks and Leslie Kane and everyone over at the Debrief for bringing this story out into the forefront. Fascinating stuff. We'll see you again right here next week. God bless you.